Welcome back. It's Sunday morning. Tinkle here. He's back.
Yeah.
Sorry to those who didn't miss him. No, I'm just kidding.
Ouch.
You all better missed him.
Boston was a lot of fun. I mean,
Yeah.
Celtics and Mavs was an interesting game. I mean, if you guys, follow any of my social media, I posted everything, picture-wise, up there on my personal Facebook and I want to say Instagram. Mostly Facebook.
Mostly Facebook is what I saw, but
Yeah, mostly Facebook. Went to the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield. It was actually really fun. Didn't get to shoot some hoops. Kind of disappointed there, but for what it was, most part it was pretty cool. I do like that they have a little area for Kobe Bryant.
as they
So
should.
that
As
was
they
cool.
should.
Yeah, they kind of should. And also, I didn't realize how big Shaq's shoes and feet are until I held his shoe in my hand. Wow. Size 23 shoe. I never would have thought I would hold a size 23 shoe in my hands. That thing was about yay big.
Feel bad for his tailors right there.
Yeah, right? But, as always, I don't know if I'm starting with takeaways or you starting with takeaways.
You are, but real quick, I also want to talk because I got a little something too. Of course, he went to Boston. I went to Buffalo on Monday, as I said on the show. Lightning win. Great job, Lightning. But you can't go to the Sabres this year and not leave with a goat head souvenir. And I've got this and 2 shirts. So, I'm not wearing it right now, but
it was the go-ahead game, wasn't it?
It wasn't. But the one that we're probably going to in March will be the goat head one.
As what I think our one buddy has stated that it's going to be.
Well, he only found out through me, so. But anyway, with that, let's get the show going. Jason, since you weren't here last week, I'm going to let you start with your takeaways.
All right. Well, Buffalo, the last 2 weeks, I mean, I don't know if you talked about it much, but the last 2 weeks, they played on Thursday. Thanksgiving was a little bit of a nail biter, Personally, that whole entire game, I thought maybe there's a chance in hell that Buffalo somehow loses this game. Well, they did not. They won off of a game-winning field goal from Tyler Bass. I tell you, man, he definitely deserves to be the special teams player of the month because he literally is on another level. He's probably one of the better kickers in the NFL. I mean, Justin Tucker is, I want to say the best kicker in the NFL, but Tyler Bass is definitely a very close second. He could almost hit it from about anywhere on that field. I mean, yeah, there was some misses that he had, but let's also talk about this dominant win for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, yeah, 24-10, you look at that, it's like, well, they didn't really dominate the Pats. Well, the defense did. And that's what I want to mostly talk about. This defense showed out. This is the first time that they probably showed out since the beginning of the season. Because the last few weeks beforehand, they were giving up a lot of points. They had a fight from behind. Haven't played super great. But to get three wins in a row, honestly, it's nice. Buffalo, hopefully they can get back on track. Of course, they get some much needed rest before playing the Jets because
And we'll be there for that.
Yes, we will be there for that. Can't guarantee we'll be sober, but we'll be there for that.
I can make a promise I won't be sober. Okay. I can make another promise that someone's going to go through a table. I just don't know who yet.
Yeah, it's not going to be us.
No.
But honestly, I think Buffalo definitely needs some help to get a little healthy. They do have some players that were not out there, but I don't think it really mattered much. I mean, the game, and honestly, he showcased Xavier Rhodes. He's another man that this is, and I don't want to talk much about the defense as I really have, but this is the first game that Buffalo had 2 veteran cornerbacks the whole entire season. 2. For the longest time this season, they've been playing rookies. With Christian Benford, Kyer Elam. This is the first time that they had 2 veteran corners since out there playing on top receivers since last year, maybe. I mean, with Levi Wallace and Tre'Davious White. Yeah, they do have, other guys out there, and Dane Jackson and can't remember the other one, but honestly, good win for the Bills. It's about time they get a division win. Now, if they can do that against the Jets and Dolphins, that'd be nice. And then again against the Pats, in Week 18. But it was nice.
It was a good
hate to
game.
say it, but I think Mac Jones he's looking really, really bad as of late. That game was not that great for Mac Jones. That Pats team was struggling the whole entire game. This seems like Matt Patricia just doesn't have it going for offensive coordinator.
I was about to say, I think more of the blame can be put on him because it seems like those two are just not getting along. So,
yeah, he was actually swearing at Matt Patricia, saying, "This quick game shit ain't gonna be working. Let's fucking throw the football down the field." Well, you can throw the football down the field all you want, but when you have Jordan Poyer in the backfield, probably not a good idea. You can try to test Tre'Davious White all you want. I know he just came back, but you're not gonna really beat Tre'Davious White. Too much, especially not with Jordan Poyer in the backfield. So you can, Matt Patricia, yeah, maybe he was playing it very conservative and very safe, but I can see the frustrations with Mac Jones. You got to let him test the waters and throw the football because, in the game beforehand, he was slinging the football around.
yeah.
It probably played the best game. Yes, it was a loss still, but
when you unleash him, like I said, when you unleash him, you've got something there. It's just, it's clear. It shows every single week that Matt Patricia is not an offensive-minded coach.
Oh, I know.
That he's not fit for this job, and I think this falls on Belichick as well at the end of the day.
Honestly, Bill Belichick is just desperate because, he loses his great offensive coordinator and Josh McDaniels, who is now with the Raiders, and you look at Matt Patricia, he kind of had no choice. What was he going to do? Find some bum off the street and say, hey, run our offense?
Yeah, they could have probably poached Bill O'Brien from Alabama, because Bill O'Brien was their offensive coordinator for a while before he went to Penn State and then eventually the Houston Texans.
Right.
So,
well,
I don't get why that move couldn't have been made. But,
right, who knows? But
good for a second-year guy.
No, it does not. Gonna get on to my second takeaway here. The Rams have been hit yet again with the injury bug. Matthew Stafford has gotten placed on IR, potentially season-ending IR with a neck injury. Also, he's been dealing with some concussions as well, too. It is just the whole entire Rams situation right now. They won the championship earlier this year. Then they come back, they lose to the Bills week 1. They haven't been the same team since that loss. They've been dealing with injuries. Matthew Stafford hasn't, Cooper Kupp has been his top receiver, but Matthew Stafford hasn't been the same Matthew Stafford with the same kind of energy and, fuel to lead that offense into another Super Bowl run. It's been a very tough situation. Their backups aren't really all that great quarterback-wise. I mean, I just think that the Rams should just give up on the season and get ready for next season at this point, because to say you're not making playoffs, you're not making a Super Bowl again, you might as well just look to get, a draft pick for once. But unfortunately, they don't have a first-round draft pick they can utilize after this poor season. And if you look at the Rams, maybe you shouldn't have gotten rid of all those first-round draft picks, because now you look at the situation that they're in, you don't have a player that you can go and be an impactful player heading into next season because you don't have a first-rounder. You got to wait until the guarantee that they're going to be, a star player that can help this team, going into next season. So if I'm the Rams, and if I am Sean McVay, I wouldn't say I would be scared right away, but you got a lot of pressure on you heading into next season, because if you put together another mediocre season like that, then people are going to say, well, now what?
I think he's safe, though, honestly.
I would say he's safe because he did sign that contract extension, but
it's not just...
it definitely has to play in mind that, if there's 2 or 3 seasons in a row where he starts dwindling off, something's got to be done.
It's, again, you can blame the injuries, and it's very well so. I think a lot of it is also losing their offensive coordinator to the Vikings. I think a lot of it can be attributed to that.
It probably can be.
Clearly whoever's calling the offensive plays
right,
clearly isn't that guy. And, it shows. And Matt Stafford, he went from little-known Detroit quarterback, to big star. And I think he's had a rough transition into that, because he's gone back to Detroit Matt Stafford that's injury-prone. Detroit Matt Stafford that Detroit Matt Stafford put up some good numbers, but,
Yeah, but he also had a receiver in Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
That was, out there catching everything that was thrown his way, so kind of helps in many ways. But yeah, we saw a lot of Detroit Matthew Stafford this year. Not like year one with the Rams offense. And then you were saying about the offensive coordinator, the former offensive coordinator there.
O'Connell, I believe his name is.
Yeah, look what he's done with Minnesota. Minnesota has one of the top offenses in probably all of the NFL right now. And it's all because he's brought that LA Rams style offense to the Minnesota Vikings, and look how good they are. I mean, they have 2 of the top receivers in the NFC, and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. You bring in T.J. Hawkinson and Dalvin Cook. You have, who's to say that Minnesota couldn't be in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles? Possibly. Who knows? I mean, you still have the Dallas Cowboys out there. They've been playing pretty well. I mean, not the greatest team in the world, but they've still been dominant when they need to be, honestly. And it's going to be interesting to see who's going to come out of the NFC and who's going to come out of the AFC. Of course, we'll talk about that when it gets to that time. But I would definitely say it's probably safe to say that the Rams should just give up on the season, right?
Pretty much. You're 3-8. You're done.
Yeah, it's safe to say that they're done.
And it's good news for Detroit.
Right. So heading on to my final takeaway, Kemba Walker is now back in the NBA as the Dallas Mavericks take the risk and signs him to a 1-year non-guaranteed contract. Hopefully he can be another playmaker that the Mavericks need desperately off the bench. Currently, they are 11-11. Not really the greatest record, but if you look at most of the teams in the West, that's pretty standard with a lot of the teams. There's a lot of 11 lost teams, so technically out of it right now. The West is very tough. Phoenix is the only team that's actually been pretty good for the West this year, but if you look at the East are definitely a lot more dominant this year than the West are, and it's crazy. I never would have thought there would be such a transition to like who is the more dominant conference this year, and it's definitely by far the East than the West.
Who would have thought? Because, you know, the 2010s was dominated by the West, with, of course, East victories. But, I mean, in terms of strength, it was easily the West, which is why they changed the All-Star format, I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
But, yeah. Kemba, definitely a big signing for the Mavs. I'm shocked he was a free agent to begin with, because Kemba's still a decent point guard.
Yeah, people are saying, and I honestly hate most of the fans that say that he's washed. I get it, you know. He had a very crappy situation with the Knicks. He was a starter, and then all of a sudden just got benched with, you know, the Knicks. Then I think he went to like the Pistons or something like that. Signed with the Pistons, I think this off season, and then he gets cut on free agency for the longest time. He hasn't played since February, which I think is insane. Like, I don't know why he was even in free agency as long as he was, because he's still somebody that can get production. I mean, the last game, like one of the last good games that he played, he dropped 44 points. How is this man still in free agency? I'm glad that the Dallas Mavericks decided to take, you know, the risk, because when he does get back up to speed, I think he's somebody that can give the Mavs like 10, 15 solid minutes and can be like the top point guard of the second unit. Somebody that can, you know, give good looks and assists to the players that are wide open. He's somebody that can hit some threes and make some good shots. Honestly, if he can end up being like the player that he was with the Charlotte Hornets, I think the Mavericks definitely got a steal and a free agent.
No, I could agree to that.
All right, I'm going to send it over your way for your takeaways.
Let's do this. All right. So we got to start with... So I'm going to focus not as much on the NFL this time. I just want to say, first off, great win for the Chargers. Still a sloppy win. Who knows what's going to happen. Just kind of the brief, you know, start to that. But I want to talk about a few big stories here. And first off, we start with Jacob DeGrom, of course, the Mets former pitcher. This one came as a shock because the Mets have money now with Cohen owning the team. But Jacob DeGrom has decided to leave New York. He has signed a 5-year, $185 million deal with the Texas Rangers. Now, keep in mind, the Texas Rangers are a team that have tanked for the longest time. They've not been that good. You know, now DeGrom is going to essentially be their top pitcher for years to come. And as far as, you know, for DeGrom, it's going to be interesting to see how he tackles the AL. Only because you don't know about Aaron Judge yet. It sounds like New York's got a good deal put together for him. But you're going to have to worry about Stanton. You're going to have to worry about Arias. You're going to have to worry about the Houston Astros, Altuve, all the time.
Right.
And on top of it, DeGrom has not stayed healthy in recent years. So I think that's something that's a high risk for the Rangers, but could be a very high reward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for the Mets, it's not doom and gloom. I was ready to say it's doom and gloom, but I believe they still got Max Scherzer. And Scherzer is still a Cy Young candidate year in and year out. I think it might take him down a peg, but I don't feel it's detriment. I don't feel like it's nail in the coffin, they're done by any stretch. And mind you, they're still a team that's in play for Aaron Judge this offseason. So,
who are the Rangers?
No, the Mets we're talking right now.
Oh.
So, the Mets, it's not doom and gloom yet, but it's a key loss in a division that's been really tight the last few seasons. That's probably been the most competitive division in baseball because, of course, the Braves came off a World Series a couple years ago. The Marlins seem to be slowly gaining traction in the division. And then you've got, oh my gosh, I got to look it up. But yeah, you got the Phillies, who are just in a World Series. So they're for sure going to be a threat once again. But then you got the Nationals, who are just the basement dwellers.
Right.
So I said it knocks them down a peg. But again, it's a division that you just can't afford to be knocked down a peg in. So, one team that might take a step back, and I got to talk FCS, because Deion Sanders, as you know, he has taken college football by storm in the last few years. Of course, going undefeated last year, or this past year, with Jackson State Tigers, the HBCU program. But Coach Prime, he's now got some offers on the table, most notably Colorado in the Pac-12. Now, of course, I wasn't going to talk rumors, but it's leaning toward it's not rumors anymore. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the things that I've seen is that, it's pretty much like a done deal that he was going to go to Colorado to be the head coach over there.
So I believe it's Colorado State or something. The Buffaloes is their mascot. But nonetheless, it is rumored. Now, again, I don't usually like talking rumors, but it sounds like Deion Sanders has told his staff that he is headed to Colorado. Now, keep in mind, Deion Sanders has been a thorn in the backside of a lot of these Power 5 schools because he's taken a lot of top recruits into FCS competition. Now he's headed into the BCS. So, again, I think he was good in Jackson State, but you can't, I just hope this deal isn't lucrative, but it's probably going to be. And the reason I say I hope it's not is because Deion hasn't played a Power 5 school. That's worth noting. Okay, he has straight up said he would never play a team like Alabama. He would never play a team like Georgia because he knows he'd get his butt whipped every single week. So...
Oh, really?
And he didn't want to kill the confidence of his players. So now he goes to a school that's not exactly on the radar in terms of college football. It depends, the transfer portal is going to be very crucial this offseason if he goes there. But I just don't think he's going to find that success in the BCS.
Right.
it's, I think he was in an ideal situation. And much like a lot of other coaches in college that are in ideal situations in lower tier conferences, they go jump to the bigger conferences and then they get trounced because they just don't know what they're doing. This is just one of those instances where I just don't. I'm not going to put blind faith into Coach Prime. So.
I mean, to be honest with you, who knows? I mean, time will only tell if he actually does have any success or not with like a bigger conference. But you're probably right. He probably won't have as much success, and then he's going to be just another coach at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those coaches, I think, that falls off the grid in a few years if he does this deal. But we'll see. With the news that came out of college football today or this week, things might look up for him. But we'll talk that a little bit later. We'll come back to college football. But right now, we've got to talk some NFL, finally. And I've got to talk about Mike White. Mike White, oh my goodness, he starts over Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson. Now, mind you, Joe Flacco started earlier this year and had some success. But Mike White comes in for the Jets against the Bears, and he balled out. 22 of 28, 315 yards, and 3 touchdown passes versus the Bears. So that leads to the question, are the Jets making the right choice to go to him at quarterback? And I got to lean toward yes. Okay. Now, I mean, I joke around a lot, and I say, oh, Mike White is goated. He's the GOAT. He's the best quarterback the Jets had. Part of that is true. Now, does it get any worse than Zach Wilson?
See, the problem with Mike White is that he had this like going with him, I think last year too, where he had like a really good game and then all of a sudden he just like fell down, back onto the face of the earth, and then gets benched for Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco. Who's to say that doesn't happen again to Mike White? It was against a team that wasn't all that great, defensively. Chicago really hasn't been all that great of a team, So who knows if it was just like a one-hit wonder?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the true test will be if he can go playing. True test could be if he is a legit, guy. He's going to have to do it in enemy lines and go up against, Minnesota. And if he can put up those kind of numbers and get a win against Minnesota, then okay, I can say the Jets are, legit with Mike White. But if he goes into, Minnesota and honestly falters and throws say 3 or 4 picks against that defense, then I hate to say it, he's just another Jets quarterback that's going to be washed.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly and I said this when Robert Saleh got hired, I think they're making the right decisions, but they're in a conference that's just too competitive right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a division that's kind of like what I was just saying earlier about the NL East. They're just that competitive. They're all very close. At least 2 out of the 4 teams are very close in terms of competitiveness. Of course, I'm talking the Bills and the Dolphins. Because that division now, which looked like it was going to go well in the Bills' favor, has now gone into a Week 18 decision, I believe, at this point.
So, like, a week... This is like Week 14 or Week 13. This is going to be going into like a Week 14 because that's when the Bills and actually no, Week 15. Week 15 is when the Bills and Dolphins play each other. So it's probably going to be a Week 15 decision.
I don't think that's going to decide it, though. To be honest, I really don't think that's going to be the end of it. Again, I get the Bills get the Bears after, but, the Dolphins get the Packers, because after that, it's going to be a leg race from there, and it's going to be who chokes first. And I'm not saying that the Dolphins have the division in hand. What I'm saying is, it's going to be about, will someone flinch? I mean, because the Patriots in Foxborough for the Dolphins, the Bills get the Bengals, and I'm sorry, you can't rule out the Bengals in that game because they're still, to me, the third best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really count out the Bengals at all. I mean, especially with possibly having Jamar Chase back by then. So.
Yeah. And then you can't rule out Week 18 either because, again, I get the Bills play the Patriots again, but who says they won't have it figured out? Then you look on down the list and you got Dolphins and Jets Week 18. That's another game that could very well decide everything.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying it very well could be a race to Week 18 at this point versus...
Very well.
Versus the last few seasons where it's been kind of decided Week 16, Week 17, you kind of had an idea. And again, I don't want to rule out the Jets because they're still mathematically in it. But again, unfortunately, they're in a division that's too competitive right now that it really doesn't show the progress that they've made besides quarterback, obviously.
Right.
So, again, I think Mike White's the right decision. It's, I'm usually against benching young quarterbacks, but Zach Wilson, it's clear he doesn't have the leadership ability to lead this team. And Mike White, again, he's the hot hand right now.
I know. It's kind of sad that this team has played and won a lot more games without Zach Wilson than with Zach Wilson this year. Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson did have that one good game. They came in and played, from his injury. But Joe Flacco and Mike White have outplayed him this season. So
and the other thing to add to this is, again, now it's going to be a race for... Keep in mind, Jimmy G is going to be the hot guy. He's going to be the top guy on the market this offseason. So now...
Which I think the Niners would be stupid to get rid of him. Especially if the Niners...
They've already said that's going to happen.
I hate to say it, but I think if the Niners get Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the top free agent heading off of this season because if he takes the Niners playoffs and a deep playoff run, then he's going to be the top option for a lot of teams that are going to need a quarterback.
And here's the thing: if he's having success in San Fran and seeing all the years of success he's had in San Fran, you don't think that Jimmy G would jump on, assuming that Mike White finishes the season pretty lousy, they drop. Again, keep in mind they've got Mike LaFleur as their offensive coordinator as well. That is Jimmy G's former offensive coordinator. Robert Saleh, the former defensive coordinator there. I'm telling you, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets are his top option this offseason.
Dude, if that was to happen, I would frickin'...
Yeah.
Honestly, I could see it. Because then you play up against his former team, twice a year in the Patriots.
But
going to,
it's not even just that. It's a familiar system. He really won't have to break in as much.
Now, that would be kind of crazy. What if he ends up back in New England? What if New England tries to make the real, bidding war to try to get him? Because
I think they're sticking with Mac or Bailey Zapp at this point. Bailey Zappi. They're going to stick with one of those two. But the Jets, though, I feel like, and again, we'll talk this a little bit more in the offseason, but, if Mike White does flop, I think Jimmy G could lead them on a whole new path of success, assuming he stays healthy.
I was gonna say, honestly, the receivers that they have aren't terrible. So honestly, if you bring some talent, say if you're the Jets, say you do get Jimmy Garoppolo next year, bring in some talent, I would think that they would be, another threat in the AFC East.
And Breece Hall's a hell of a running back.
And he'll be healthy next year, too.
So, but with that, I think it's a good time to go on break.
Yes, it is.
When we come back, we're going to talk college football playoffs. We're going to make our Week 13 picks. And then Tinkle on this. That's all coming up right after the break here on Sunday Morning Tinkle. All right, 2 big upsets happened here yesterday, and actually this week in college football in the championship week. TCU and USC, they were 3rd and 4th ranked coming in to this week in terms of college football playoff top 25. Well, now that might change because both have lost their conference championships.
Right.
USC lost to Utah. TCU losing to... and I just had it up. Kansas State, number 10 in the country. So now, you look at it, 31-28. It's not a bad loss for TCU, but it's still a loss. USC blown out against Utah.
That's insane.
Is this the break that Ohio State needed to get in?
I think so. Which is weird that fate kind of was knocking at their door like, hey, here, you can be into the playoffs now. But of course eventually it's gonna be more teams competing for the playoff spots to get to the championship. I think we've already talked about it here or haven't talked about it, but we'll talk about it in the future. But right now it is only 4 teams that compete for the championship, but eventually, I think in 2027, 2028, somewhere around that time, they're going to extend the college football playoffs so that more teams can be competing for the championship.
Yeah. I call it the Alabama rule, okay, and I'll explain why in a moment. But I do like it. It's good for the game. But looking at this, Georgia, they're a lock. They've already locked up. They're going to be in the playoff, and they're going to be the number 1 seed after beating LSU earlier yesterday. TCU, they might be the odd team out.
Which is sad because, honestly, they shocked a lot of people this year because TCU, we've already talked about it, isn't usually that team that's in the top 4 to compete for the national championship. Usually they're competing for a bowl game or something like that.
Yeah. But now Alabama, I don't think this helps them. I think you got to rule out everyone 6th on down. They're done. You can't.
Which is honestly weird because usually Alabama, and we've talked about Alabama. Alabama is usually number 1 every single year.
Yeah, and
to see them not number 1 and possibly not even in the discussion for the playoffs, it's kind of weird.
You can't. See. And I'm sorry, but if Alabama, now we're closing in on the selection day here, but you can't put Alabama in my opinion, with 2 losses when you've got TCU, USC, Ohio State with 1. If you do that, frankly, it shows that this system is rigged to begin
It's
with.
rigged in favor for Alabama every single year.
It's rigged in favor of the bookies, I would say. There's no more, you can't convince anybody that there's no, like, big rig behind, or at least that it favors the big, Power 5 teams, like the big ones.
Right.
You can't convince anybody that it's not the case if they put Alabama in. Ohio State getting in, you could argue for them because their only loss was to Michigan. I mean,
Right.
TCU's loss was to Kansas State. That one shouldn't hurt them, but it could. I think it will. USC, if it was my decision on the playoff, it'd be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, TCU. That's how I'd put them in that order. So that way we see it's Ohio State and Michigan match up in the first round of the playoffs. Okay.
Who knows? I mean,
But
Michigan is also one of those teams that are up there, right?
yep, they are. They're number 2 in the nation right now.
I was gonna say.
But with that though, the college football playoff, you mentioned it, is expanding, but it's going to happen sooner.
Beginning to talk about it.
Okay, 2024. So we only got one more year of a 4-team college playoff. And I just got to say, thank God that it's coming a lot sooner.
Right.
Because, man, I mean, again, the 4-team system to me has always been rigged in favor of the big Power 5 schools.
Usually, yeah.
I feel like we explained that enough, so... But now, the only issue I have with it is it's going to help out Alabama because there will never be a year that Alabama doesn't make the college football playoff.
I was going to say, especially with it being 12 teams now, yeah.
I feel like I don't like it.
I do think there's going to be more competition with it being 12 teams, too.
But now, on the other hand, you look at the 12 teams right now. Keep in mind the top 12, Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, they're top 4. Then you got Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Penn State, one you don't see often, but they are a Power 5 school. Clemson, again, another one you normally see. Kansas State, one you never see. I mean, ever in the college football, even in contention of the college football playoffs. Utah and Washington. Again, 3 more teams you never
usually
see.
Would not be seeing in those top 12 teams that would be competing for the championship.
Yeah. So there's the good in that, but there's also the bad. And the bad is, again, teams like Alabama, Ohio State, you should argue couldn't, or you could argue shouldn't be in there.
Right.
So, but may even help Notre Dame, which Notre Dame needs all the help they can get because, once again, I bring out the old joke. What's the difference between Notre Dame and cereal? Only one belongs in a bowl. So,
right.
With that, let's go make the picks now that I'm done being a comedian. So did I close out of it? I did. But let's pull it back up.
Steelers on Falcons.
All right, yes. Steelers Falcons line is even.
This one, honestly, I feel like it could go either way, to be honest with you. As much as I want to pull for the Steelers, it wouldn't shock me if it's the Falcons. But honestly, I'm going to go with the Steelers on the road here, even though the Falcons have a better home record.
I think TJ Watt is the difference maker now, so I got to go with the Steelers. Here we go. Battle for ownership again. Packers, Bears. Packers 4.5.
Hey, there's a reason why Rodgers says he owns the Bears. He's going to go into the Soldier Field and do it again.
Could it be possible that the Packers found something with Jordan Love this week? I'm just saying, Could it be
Oh,
possible
Detroit.
that now there might just be second thoughts? You know, maybe. I don't think
Tell you what,
anytime soon.
the Packers have a young receiver that's had 6 touchdowns in 3 games, so
Yeah,
he could
Watson.
end up doing it again.
But I got to go with the Packers. It doesn't change my
Oh,
thought
yeah.
on who wins. I just have to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Packers too.
Jags and Lions are even, but I do add that the Lions just got their first round wide receiver back. Jameson.
Yeah, Jameson Williams making his season debut in this game. I mean, the Jaguars had a very impressive comeback from behind win against the Ravens too. So who knows what could actually happen here? I think this is going to be a battle in Detroit. This might be a game that, if it was televised, might be interesting to watch. But ultimately, I'm probably going to say, you know what? Honestly, I think I'm going to go over the Jags. I think that the Jags are going to ultimately get the win here.
Yeah. So, Jameson Williams, of course. Sorry, I just gotta search something real quick. Again, he is an Alabama Crimson Tide product. We've seen how Alabama receivers go to the NFL, and they usually turn out pretty good.
Yep, they usually do.
Then I add now, what would have happened if he played earlier this year? Because the Lions are a team, again, 4-7, but the record does not show how good this team really is. So that's why I got to go with the Lions. I mean, the Jags, they're kind of in the same boat, but now they add Jameson Williams, and if he is that guy for them, they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's also he's also got the dog in him. You got Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Okay, I mean, this offense is just loaded now for the Lions if this works out. So things are looking on the up and up.
And tell you what, they're still not technically out of playoff contention either, so they could somehow turn us around and then get into the playoffs.
Just to lose in the first round.
That would be one hell of a Cinderella story for the Lions if they somehow, with Jameson Williams, turn it around, get into the playoffs. That would be interesting.
Only to lose in the first round because they haven't won in the first round since like the 80s or the 90s. But hey,
I mean, hey, it'd still be better than what they have been the last few years. So,
all right, yeah, exactly. Lions Jets or Vikings Jets. Vikings favored by 3.
I hate to say it, but Mike Love's going to look like just a normal quarterback against the Vikings. I'm going to have to go with the Vikings here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings. But I do think you're wrong. I think Mike White's going to have another decent game. I don't think it's going to be, 149 passer rating game, but it's going to be solid. But Commanders, Giants, Commanders favored by 2.
Hey, man. There's a reason why Taylor Heineke took over the starting job. He's been, making Washington believe. I'm going to have to go with Washington on the road here. Honestly, nothing against the Giants, but Washington has it going on right now.
I would love to add in that had Chase Young made his debut this week, I think I would have given a serious edge to the Commanders. However, I'm still going to go with them, but I think it's going to be about where the line is. So, Commanders. Titans, Eagles favored by 4.5.
I don't know if I like that. I'm going to have to say that. I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to have to go with the Tennessee Titans over the Eagles here.
I feel like Jalen Hurts is just padding his MVP discussion right here. So I got to go with the Eagles. I just don't buy the Titans. I just don't think they're a good team this year. But Broncos, Ravens, I think we know who we're going with in this one.
I mean, but you can't count out the Broncos either because every time the Ravens, you think that it's going to be like a win for them. Then, they blow another lead and then boom, they lose again. So honestly, I want to say yes, the Ravens, but it wouldn't shock me if somehow they have like a 20-10 lead and below that to the Broncos lose in the fourth quarter yet again.
Please tell me, and I'm going to go with the Ravens here as well, but please tell me CBS is showing this game tomorrow, because this game is going to be, honestly, in terms of grab the popcorn, it's going to be that kind of game. Browns-Texans, mind you, Deshaun Watson returns this week from his suspension, and the sick fuck gets to play in his old stadium against his old team. Cleveland favored by 8.
Hate to say it, I think it's going to be more than 8. I think that Deshaun Watson has, something to probably prove against his former team. Be like, hey, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to beat the living hell out of you guys. But didn't Baker say the same thing about his former team and he lost? So, well who knows? I'm going to still go with the Browns, but...
Yeah, the Texans are a dumpster fire, so I'm going to go with the Browns.
Yeah, they are.
But, Seahawks-Rams, Seahawks favored by 7.
Yeah. Do we even have to, choose? It's going to be the Seahawks.
Yeah, Seahawks.
Rams without Stafford is just another mediocre team in the NFL at this point.
Yeah. But Dolphins 49ers, Mike McDaniel's return to San Fran, and 49ers are favored by 4.5.
Honestly, the 49ers just have it going on. Ever since they got McCaffrey, they've been just winning games. Garoppolo has it going on. The 49ers have it going on right now. It wouldn't shock me if, the 49ers ruined Mike McDaniel's return. I'm going to go with the 49ers here.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins. To be honest, they're rolling too right now. So I feel like they win this game and they try to make it a battle in a tied division.
I say Nick Bosa is definitely going to be that difference maker for the 49ers, and I think he's going to make Tua stay like a living nightmare.
No, I don't see it happening. I got to go with the Dolphins. That O-line's a lot better than it used to be.
I get it. Possibly the game of the week right here.
Oh,
the
AFC
rematch.
Yeah, Chiefs-Bengals. Chiefs favored by 2.
Hey, Bengals beat them last year, so who knows what could really happen here. I get it. Mahomes is having an MVP-like season, but he's also going into Cincinnati, too, so I don't know. I would say if they had Jamar Chase,
I think they're gonna have him this week. They've already said that.
Then I'm gonna have to probably go with the Bengals here, getting the upset against the Chiefs.
So let me give you a few hard to swallow pills. Okay, Travis Kelce's the MVP on this roster, whether people want to see it or not. Again, you call me a clown. You can say, well, you said the same thing about Tyreek Hill. Look at what Travis Kelce has done this year. Okay?
Yeah, 912 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. Sorry. And look at how many games he's already won for Mahomes this year on his route running. So, Mahomes can throw the ball, but Kelsey's the one who makes it work. So, but that said, I'm going to go with the Bengals here, just barely. I think that Chiefs November, December bullshit is going to end now. Raiders, Chargers, I think I already know who I'm going with in this one, even though the Vegas Raiders are favored by 2.5.
I mean, Chargers definitely want redemption for that loss last year. So I'm going to have to say the Chargers.
I'm going Chargers too. I get we don't probably have Mike Williams, but the Raiders are just absolute garbage, so I'm going to go with the Chargers. Colts, Cowboys. I think we know who we're going with this one.
Our tickets as low as $19 for this. That's why I want to know.
Because no one wants to see a failed high school coach.
That's true. I'm going to have to say the Cowboys, and I think they're going to dominate all over the Colts.
It's going to be a nice running back battle between Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Saints, Bucks, Bucks favored by 3.5.
Safe to say it's probably going to be the Bucks beating the Saints.
Yeah, no Sean Payton, no problem, Bucks. Probably the worst Thursday night football game of the entire year. Raiders and Rams. Raiders favored by 5.5. I don't know why the Raiders are favored in these games, but they are.
See, now if this was like Matthew Stafford, healthy, playing lights out, I would say Rams all day, beating the crap out of them. But now that, he's possibly not going to be playing this game because of being on IR, I'm going to have to go with the Raiders on the road.
I'm only going to say Raiders by a field goal, but I just had to laugh at how much they're favored every single week, even though they have one of the worst teams in football right now. So, but again, I think the Raiders will just narrowly pull it off. But anyway, let's get on to Tinkle on this now. That's it for our picks. And we start with Mike McDaniel. Now, of course, they mic up coaches every week. So it should come as no surprise that Mike McDaniel was mic'd up and tries to get under his quarterback's skin just a little bit. He's walking around with the playbook, holding it over his mouth, trying not to give away what he's saying to, anyone with a camera. But he says on the mic, man, Georgia is the best team in the SEC. And I sure hope Tua doesn't hear me on this mic. While he's holding the mic button down. So, it's not much of a tinkle on this, but hey, if it motivates your player to win games, go do it. So, I guess tinkle on this Tua.
Yes, tinkle on this too. I think Mike McDaniel more than Tua because man just has no chill. Just trolling his quarterback like that, damn. I mean, Georgia, won the national championship this past year, but damn, what did Tua do wrong to you? You pissing your Wheaties or something like that? Is that why you decided? You
Clearly.
said Georgia's better than Alabama?
Clearly, but that's it for this week, but you're back now, so I can ask you what's coming up on No Final Bell, because last week I just had to tell them to watch.
Well, MGF introduces a brand new belt and beats down on William Regal, which was a big turn of events because everybody thought, William Regal is now going to be with MGF. I'm my own free man. I don't need anybody but myself. So definitely be on the watch out with that as we talk about that. And of course, anything with AW Rampage, Dynamite Rampage, and Impact Wrestling. So catch us, every Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Yep, YouTube,
Unless
Facebook
otherwise.
Watch. But again, that's what's coming up. Just a little bit of a note for the future. Of course, as we just did our Week 13 picks for this show, keep in mind we are closing in on some Saturday games. I believe they will start Week 15 in a couple weeks. So it looks like 3 games will get flexed to Saturday. We're going to try to make our picks on a separate Saturday video, kind of like we've done in the past. So tune in Saturday to YouTube starting that week. And then I don't want to get ahead just yet, but of course, Christmas, New Year's, we might be moving our show to Saturday, so that way we can just get everything done. But yeah, so just keep an eye out. We'll have more announcements as we get closer, so you guys don't feel lost. But with that said, we thank you for watching. We'll see you back here next Sunday. Till then, goodbye, everyone.